Hi guys. Welcome to HaryPhamDev channel. In this video, you will learn how to build a simple chatbot with Messenger platform. But before we jump into coding, let's take a look at the bot we will build. This is a Facebook page, which I already embed a chatbot behind it. If I send a text message, I will have a reply message immediately, asking for sending an image. This bot can handle the text message and attachment message. Let's send an image to this bot. We have a reply message, with two buttons to confirm. One yes, and one no. These are post back buttons, and the bot also sends message if I click on these buttons. My aim to do this video, is that everyone can familiar with the chatbot messenger concepts. We do everything from scratch. To make it easy to learn and understand. Then finally, we can build complex bots, like this restaurant bot. I will put the link to test my bots, which I did so far at the description. So, what do you learn from this video? You will learn how to create a Facebook page, then a Facebook app. After that, deploy a webhook with Node.js platform. Finally, at the end of this video, you can build a simple chatbot, to handle text, and attachment messages. Let's get started now. In this video, we will create a Facebook page together. So, first, go to Facebook and log in with your registered account. This is the Facebook homepage. To start, we will create a Facebook page. In the left corner of the screen, we choose Pages. This is the screen showing all the pages that you have created so far. To create a new page, we have two ways. Option 1, click on this plus button, then select Page. Or, we can directly click on this button, Create New Page. Here, we need to fill up information, such as page's name, and category. I will choose Shopping and Retails. Then write a brief description, and press Create Page button. We will have a pop-up below, saying the new page creation was successful. Next, we need to update the avatar, as well as the cover image for this new page. Let's wait a moment for Facebook to upload photos. For the cover image, you can drag to choose the desired angle. Then click the Save button, to complete the process of creating a new page. This is the fan page that we just created. The next thing we need to do, is to add a button on the page, so that users can send messages to this page. Click on Add a button. By default, Facebook will give us a lot of options, such as Buy Gift Card button, Order Food, and so on. However, we will not choose these options, because we are building the chatbot. Right here, we will choose Send Message. After adding the button to send the message successfully, immediately, the original button has changed to Edit button. We will check if our button is working. For a page about shopping and retail, Facebook has already suggested a few sample messages for us. I will choose the first sample message. To check the messages sent to the fan page, on the left corner, we need to select the inbox. Because I press Ctrl plus click, a new tab opened. This is the interface to manage all messages sent to fan page. You can send reply messages to users in this box. We got the response messages. It means that the fan page is working properly. You can also choose Delete Conversation to restart this conversation again. You need to know that, suggested sample messages appear only for new customers, who have never sent a message to the page. So, in this video, you already learned how to create a Facebook page. In the previous video, we learned how to create a Facebook page for a chatbot. In this video, we will learn how to create a Facebook app. The Facebook app is where we connect to the Facebook page, which we created earlier. And with the Facebook app, we can use the Facebook APIs to send messages to users. To create a Facebook app, we will need a Facebook developer account. Going to Facebook developer. This is the Facebook developer page. By default, this page only shows information about Facebook products, so we need to log in as a Facebook developer. To log into this page, we will use a Facebook account. We will log in with the same Facebook account, which we used to create a Facebook page before. This is the Facebook developer interface after logging in. At this page, click on My Apps. Immediately, we will redirect to the dashboard, showing all the Facebook apps that this Facebook account has created so far. To create a new Facebook app, you can click directly to this blue button, or you can hover the mouse on the Facebook avatar, then select Create App. Before creating a Facebook app, Facebook will ask, what is our purpose to use this app? Because we are building the chatbot for the Facebook page, so we'll choose the first option. We will need to enter the name of the Facebook app. With the Facebook policy, remember that the name of the app will not contain keywords, which related to Facebook. Next is to choose the purpose of the app. And finally, select Create App ID. Wait a moment for Facebook to create the app. We will have to complete the security check. Facebook need to know that we are not robots. Click Submit to complete the process. If you are redirected to this screen, congratulations, you have successfully created a new Facebook app. The name of the Facebook app will appear here, so we will know which Facebook app we are using. To build the chatbot, we will need the Messenger platform. So, we will add Messenger product to this app. Click the Setup button. The left bar has updated Messenger product. Next, we will set up a few basic configurations for this product. First, we will need to link this Facebook app to a Facebook page. Click Add or Remove Page. Choose to continue with your Facebook account. Select the Facebook page, which we created earlier, select Next and finally Done. Wait a moment for Facebook to process our request. If we successfully link the Facebook app and Facebook page, the name of the Facebook page will appear in this section. In the next video, we will set up a Node.js server, then configure the Facebook webhook. In this video, we will build a Node.js server to handle messages for chatbots. First, let's create an empty folder on the computer. This directory is where we store the source code of this Node.js server. Next, we will open up the Visual Studio Code. Here, let's open the empty folder, which we just created. Select File, followed by the Open folder. Find the folder where you will write this project code. The folder we have opened up with the Visual Studio Code is a completely empty folder. We will build everything from scratch. To open a terminal, in the Visual Studio Code, on the keyboard, press Ctrl plus backtick. Or in the toolbar, select View, then select the terminal. Before we jump into coding, there are a few things you need to keep in mind as follows. First of all, our computer has installed the Node.js environment. You can test it by doing the same what I did. If your computer has not installed the Node.js environment, you can also install it by going to Google. Typing download Node.js. We will choose the first search result. Here, depending on the operating system, you choose the version of Node.js that is suitable for your computer. After you have downloaded Node.js, you install it. It's very simple. After we have installed the Node.js environment, we proceed to create a Node.js project for the chatbot. To create a new Node.js project, we use the command npm init. Package name, we keep the default, press enter to continue. Version 1.0. Description. Write a briefly describe for this project. Facebook Messenger chatbot. Entry point is the file we will run the server. I will change to server.js, because simply, I don't like the index.js file. Press enter to continue. Author, write your name here. After finishing this process, immediately, we will have the package.json file in the root directory. This file is where we manage the JavaScript libraries used in the project. To start writing code, we will install the following packages. The first is Express, a back-end framework. The second is the View Engine, EJS. Next comes the .env, and finally the body parser. After we finish the installation, our project has added Node modules folder, and package lock.json. And the names of the packages we install also appear here. I will proceed to create a structure for our project. First, we will create a folder, named src, short for source code. This is where we write the source code for the project. Inside this directory, we create an entry point file, server.js. We will need a configuration folder. This is where we configure system parameters, such as view engine, session, or database connection. View folder to store the view files. The controller directory, that handles the requested logical requests. Public folder, to store public files, such as CSS, JavaScript at client side, and images. Services directory, will receive connection to Facebook APIs, then return the result. First, we will configure the view engine for the system. In the config directory, create a file, name config view engine. In this file, we will import Express framework, then create an arrow function, named config view engine. We will export this function to use later. Module.exports, the name of the function you want to export. In this function, we will pass the input parameter, is the Express app. We will config Express app, to use a static link. That is the public directory, where we store the images, CSS, and JavaScript files. In addition, we also configure the view engine as EJS. And finally, where we store the EJS files, is the view directory. app.set, views, then the path to the destination you store the view files, in this case, is the views folder. After that, in the public folder, we create the following directory. CSS to write style sheet files. JS for JavaScript. And images, to store images we use in this server. Next, in the src directory, we will create one more folder, roots. This is where we declare the roots used in the system. Create a new file, name web. We will define all the web roots in this file. Similar to the view engine, we will also use Express for roots. Import Express from Express. After that, we will define a router variable, use Express router. We create a function to store web roots. Don't forget to export this function. Module.exports, the name of the function you want to export. In this function, we return to a default value, that is, every root on the server always begins with a slash. We will define the router to return the homepage. We use the method get, router.get, the root, then the server action. We define a function with request and response as two input parameters, and then execute a callback function. Use response.send to send a message. This function will simply return a hello world string. Ctrl+S to save changes. After that, we will configure the entry point file, server.js. In order to run the Node.js server, our server will run this file first. First, we will import the Express framework. After that, we will configure the server parameter, such as the view engine, declare the routes in the server, as well as convert the data sent to the server, as a JSON object, by using the body parser package. We will import the view engine from the config directory. Then import all web routes from the routes directory. We create an instance of Express. After that, configure EJS as the view engine. To use body parser, we use the syntax app use, body parser, then call JSON function. Body parser, .url encoded, then extended is true. The extended syntax allows for rich objects and arrays to be encoded into the URL encoded format, allowing for a JSON-like experience with URL encoded. We will declare the routes used on this server. Add a comment, then call the init web routes function, then pass the Express app as the input parameter. To run the local server, we need to create a variable named port. This variable will get the value from the environment file. If in case we have not declared in the environment file, this variable will take the value of 8080. We will call Express's listen method to run the local server on the port we specified. If we run the server successfully, this function will execute a callback function, where we simply print out a message saying that our app is running at the port we defined before. By default, Express will not understand the process.env syntax. In order to get the values of the variables in the .env file, we will use the .env package. Require .env at the beginning of this file. To run the project, we will use the command node, followed by the path to the entry point file. We get this error saying that the Node.js server doesn't understand the import syntax, or in other words, the import syntax is invalid. The import syntax is the syntax used in ES6 and later versions, while require is JavaScript's ES5 syntax. To be able to use the syntax of different versions of JavaScript, we will need a server-side compiler. Here we will use the Babel package. First, at the root directory, we create the following files. Git ignore file, to be able to push the necessary files in the project to GitHub. .env and env.example are files that store environment variables. Babel RC is the Babel compiler configuration file. We will install the following packages, so that we can compile the JavaScript syntax for different versions. We install nodemon, to make the Node server automatically restart, whenever it's detected we have file changes. Then install Babel compiler, including Babel core, Babel node, and Babel preset env. Wait a few minutes to this process to complete. Let's set up the Babel compiler. We will change the Babel RC file. In this file, we will use the following syntax: create an object, with the key set to presets. Its value is an array. Here, we will use Babel preset env. After the installation is complete, the package.json file will update to add the newly installed packages. We will add a command to run the Node.js server. First, we define the command start. Here, we will use the node mon, execute Babel node, and call our entry point file. To run the server, we use the command, npm start. Here, we used node mon, and the server was running successfully. To test, let's open up the web browser. Type localhost address port 8080. We will get hello world message. So, we succeed to set up, and run a Node.js server. The last thing we need to do, is to fill up the environment files. We start with the .env. To comment, we use the hashtag, then the comment, configure the app variables. In this video, we have already defined the port parameters in the entry point, so create this variable. We set its value to 8080. Then, copy this file, and paste to .env.example. We won't push the .env to GitHub for security reasons. We only push this file. After we have installed the Node.js server, the next thing we will do, is to build the Facebook chatbot. To start, we will read the documentation of the Messenger platform, which helps us to understand the mechanism, and how to operate a chatbot with Facebook Messenger. Here, on the left side of the screen, we will choose Getting Started, and after that, we have the next option, to build everything from scratch. According to this document, we can start with a project available on GitHub, or remix it on Glitch. But here, I will choose to build from scratch, to better understand this platform. At the start, first, we will need to configure the Facebook app. In the previous video, I showed you how to create a Facebook app, as well as linking the Facebook app to the Facebook page. If you do not know, then you can review the above two videos. Right here, we will reopen our Facebook app. Select My Apps, followed by choosing the app you created. You can check the name of the app here. Next, in the left corner of the screen, in the Product section, we choose Messenger, then Setting. Here, we can see the Facebook page has been successfully linked to this app. At this point, we will generate a token. The purpose of this token is to allow us to send messages to Facebook users who sent messages to our Facebook page. Here, we check this box and choose to copy the token. Reopen our project. In the .env file, we will create a new variable to store the Facebook page token. Name it the page access token, then paste the value we copied here. Next, we create a new variable, name it myVerify_token. This is the token that Facebook will use to authenticate our webhook. This token is for us to decide, it is a string, so feel free to set a value for it. Next, in the example file, we will create two new variables we just created. The first variable is the page access token, and the second is the myVerify token. But in this file, we will not update their values. We go back to Facebook's docs. After creating the Facebook app, we have created a Facebook access token to send message to Facebook users. We have also saved this token as an environment variable to use in the future. The next thing we need to do will be configuring Facebook Webhook. These are the three basic functions we will use for chatbots. The first function will handle text messages. The next function is to handle events, when the user selects the buttons in our messages, and the last one is how to send the message with the Facebook APIs. However, before we get started, I will refine our code. First, we will start with declaring the roots. In the roots directory, open the web file. Here, in the previous video, I have instructed you to return hello world message if the user gets the homepage. This is not wrong, but we are processing apps logic on the view layer. We will split the model, view, and controller into 3 separate parts. Here, in the controller directory, we create a new file, named Chatbot Controller. This file will be responsible for handling requests for Chatbot. Let's create a function, so we can get the homepage. Creates an arrow function, named test, with 2 input parameters, request and response. In this function, we use response.send, to return a message to the user. To use this function, we will export it. Instead of exporting a function, I will export an object, with the key and its value as the same. We will export the function test. Ctrl+S to save changes. Return to the web roots file. First of all, we will import the controller, to handle the request the user sent. Import Chatbot Controller from controller. We use 2. To go back to the root folder, then go to the controller folder, and the controller file. Next, we will delete this part. Instead, the controller name, and the function to handle user requests. With this, we will handle logic at the controller file, while the view simply selects which controller file to handle the request. Save changes and rerun the server. If I reload the page, the result will be different from the original. Instead of hello world, we received a new message. The new message has appeared successfully, proving our system is working properly. From now on, we will build the chatbot following the MVC model. View to display the user interface, controller for handling logic, and the model to connect data to the database. In this project, our model is the services, responsible for connecting to the Facebook APIs. Next, I will define 2 new functions. The first function is getWebhook, using the get method. The next function is postWebhook, using method post. We will use 2 functions later. For each function, we all pass 2 parameters, request and response, as input parameters. After that, we will export these 2 functions for using in other files. Copy the name and update it here. Ctrl+S to save changes. Next, we need to declare 2 new roots for the newly created functions. The first will be the get method, for the webhook root. We will use the chatbot controller. Then call the getWebhook function, which we created to process requests for this route. Next is the post method. We also use the chatbot controller, and call the postWebhook function. Basically, we have all the tools needed to configure the Facebook webhook. Go back to Facebook documents. We also copy these 3 functions, and paste them into our chatbot controller. Go back to the chatbot controller file. We need to update this file. I will close these other tabs. We only open the editing file. Paste these functions right below the post webhook function. Here, we scroll to the top of this page. Facebook has also dedicated a section to guide webhook configuration. Select Webhook Setup. In this section, Facebook shows us step-by-step to configure a Facebook webhook. To make it easier to understand, imagine that a Facebook webhook is the bridge between Facebook and our Node.js server. When a user sends a message to our Facebook page, Facebook server will send signals to webhook. The Node.js server will listen for Facebook signals on the webhook, handle the request, and choose a response, then call the Facebook APIs to send a reply message to the user. The steps in the requirements section are done already. We created a Node.js project, created an HTTP server, with Express framework. We have also added the Facebook endpoint in this server. Here, all we need to do is write the code for them as well. Copy this block of code, I will later explain the content of this code. Then update our post webhook function. We will paste the block code right here, in the body of this function. Next, we also update the get webhook function. To verify the webhook, we copy this block code, and update the get webhook function. We paste the block code right here. I want to format our code to make it easier to see. To do that, select the block code. Then right-click, select Format section to format the block code you want. Now, it looks better. In this function, we have one parameter that needs to be updated, which is the verify token. We will get the verify token value from the environment file, .env. So, import .env package. Next, we create a constant, here we name it myVerifyToken. Its value we get from the environment file, with the syntax, process.env. Update the verify token parameter, its value is myVerifyToken. So, what happens when we call this getWebhook function? First, the server Node.js will parse the query parameters, get the mode, token, and challenge parameters that we pass in the URL. If we have mode parameter, and token parameter, then mode equals subscribe, and token is myVerifyToken. We will log the webhook verify message, and return status 200. Otherwise, we will return status 403, forbidden, if verify token is not match. So, how to test this webhook? Scroll to the Test Your Webhook section, right here, we will use a curl to test the Facebook webhook. We will copy this curl command, then open Notepad. On your computer, open Notepad, then paste the command you copied before. Here, we need to change a few parameters for this test statement. Change port to 8080, next, we need to update verify token parameter. Here, we will open the .env file. Then copy the value of the myVerifyToken parameter, replace to your verify token. Copy this curl command, and open up Visual Studio Terminal. Press the shortcut, Ctrl backtick to open the terminal. This terminal is running our Node.js server, so click on this plus icon to open another. Paste to the terminal, and press enter. We get an error, that the PowerShell of Visual Studio cannot understand the curl command. This is because the Visual Studio Code does not support this command. To fix it, we will use git bash. First, we need to open the folder where we write the source code this project. In the root folder, right-click, then select git bash. Right-click, then paste the curl command, and press enter. We get the error, forbidden. This is telling that the verify tokens do not match. The reason for this error is because of the Node.js server cannot get the variables in the environment file. We must put the environment files in the root folder, including .env, .env.example, gitignore, and babelrc. To do that, open the project folder, and move these files to the root folder. Same level with the src folder. We try again. We still get this error. We need to restart the Node.js server to know the new environment files. I will console.log the verify token to see if we can get this token or not. You can see, the nodemon has already restarted the server for us. Open the git bash, and try again. We have a new message, challenge accepted. This time, we succeed. In the previous video, we succeeded in authenticating the Facebook webhook. The next work we need to do is to deploy this webhook to a web server. In this tutorial, I choose deploy to Heroku Cloud because it meets the requirements of Facebook, like providing an SSL certificate for the webhook, and we can use Heroku for free. To get started, first, we need to create a new file, called procfile, in the root folder. Name it procfile. We need to click outside these files, to be able to create a file in the root directory. Procfile is the file that helps Heroku know how to run our server. In this file, we will use web::node to run a web app, followed by the path to our entry point file. Here will be the server.js file in the src directory. Press Ctrl S to save the changes. Next, we will create a Heroku app to deploy this application. Going to Heroku.com. Because I'm already logged in, Heroku automatically redirects me to the dashboard, which manages all the Heroku apps I've created so far. If this is your first time using Heroku, then this is Heroku's interface. You will need an account to use Heroku. In this screen, you can choose to create a free account or register a new account. To create a Heroku account, you need to fill out the following information, such as first name, last name, and email address. Email address is your username to log into Heroku. And one more note, that you choose Node.js here. Finally, press the Create Account button. Once you have a Heroku account, to be able to manage our apps locally, you need to install the Heroku CLI. Heroku CLI helps us to view application logs, and run applications locally. Or more simply, you can watch my video. I also made a video to deploy the Node.js application to Heroku within 3 minutes. I will put the link to this video in the description of the video. Back to our application. To be able to create a new Heroku app, you choose New, then Create New App. We will need to set a name for this app, and choose the region for this application. One thing you need to know is that the name of the Heroku app shouldn't contain keywords related to Facebook, because this is a violation to Facebook policy for using Facebook products. Here we are using Messenger product. Finally, press the button Create App. If you successfully create the app, the name of the Heroku app will appear here. And Heroku also guides us on how to quickly deploy an application to Heroku. At this section, we will need to log into Heroku. You can use the Visual Studio Code terminal, or using Git bash. We use the command, Heroku login, then press Enter. Press any key on the keyboard to continue. Heroku will automatically open a new tab on the browser. You press the button Login. Immediately, our status has changed to logged in. If the login is successful, your Heroku username will appear in the terminal. The next step is to create a Git directory in order to push the source code to Heroku. Copy this command like me, the command right below Git init. This time, I will use Visual Studio Code. First, we will use the git init command to be able to manage the source code with Git. After that, you paste the command you just copied here. The purpose of this command is to set Git remote to Heroku, or in other words, to help us push the code to Heroku instead of GitHub. Next, we proceed to push the code onto Heroku. First, select the files to deploy, then commit the same way you would with GitHub. I use git add, a space, and dots to be able to select all the files in this project. Finally, use the command, git push Heroku master. Wait a moment for the application deploy to Heroku. This usually takes a few minutes, depending on the speed of your internet connection, as well as the size of the application to be deployed. If in this process, you get errors, you can watch my video. I also made a video of the common mistakes, which we encountered when deploying apps to Heroku. To view our Heroku app, click on this link on the terminal. Or on Heroku, you choose Open App. Since this is our first time running the app, we need to wait a moment for Heroku to start our app. So, our app has failed to run. In order to see what error we are having, we need to look at logs of Heroku, with this command. We'll copy this command and paste it in the terminal. Press Enter. Wait a moment for Heroku write logs. Here, you can see that our app has started successfully, because we have the message, app is running at the port 8080. However, the application encountered a timeout error, because Heroku could not find a parameter, our port number. To fix this error, first reopen our entry point file, server.js. Here, you need to capitalize the name of the environment parameter. After that, we need to redeploy the app to Heroku. Press Ctrl+C to exit the running process. Since we are working with the Heroku server, there is no need to run the Node.js server locally. Git add, then git commit. Finally, git push Heroku master. Since we are not pushing the .env file on Heroku, nor can Heroku read the .env file, we will need to configure these environment parameters for Heroku. In the Heroku app interface, we select Settings, then reveal config variables. The first parameter we need to configure is the port. Set its value to 8080, followed by the page access token. Copy name and paste here. We also copy the value of this parameter. The last parameter is my verify token. Click Add to finish. After we have configured the environment parameters, as well as our app has deployed to Heroku, we reload our app. This time, we were successful. The application deployed to Heroku was the same as when we ran it locally, displaying the message hello again. After deploying the app to Heroku, the next thing we need to do is configure the webhook for our Facebook app. After we have successfully deployed the webhook to Heroku Cloud, the next thing we will do is configure the Facebook app to use this webhook. Here, we choose Setting up your Facebook app. Before we get started, let's check out what we did. We create a Facebook page, then use the Facebook account to log into the Facebook developer, then create a Facebook app. At the same time, we have also deployed a webhook Node.js to Heroku server, so now, we had a webhook URL. So basically, we have successfully configured the Facebook app. Here, to move to the next section, you can click on the Onward to the Quick Start, or in the sidebar, we can click directly on this Quick Start section. In the previous videos, we have also configured the Facebook app, as well as generate the Facebook page access token. If you have not done these steps, you can review my videos. I will link to each video below the description. After we have built the Facebook webhook, we will find a way to get the ID of the person who sent the message to our fan page. This ID is called PSID, short for Page Scope ID. So, what is PSID? A person is assigned a unique page scoped ID for each Facebook page they start a conversation with. The PSID is used to identify a person when sending messages. Here, we will copy this body. Back to our project. We will update the post webhook function in the Chatbot controller. Paste the code we copied into this body. I will explain this post webhook function. When a user sends a message to the Facebook page, Facebook will send events to this webhook. If it was an event, sending a message to the fan page, we would get this event object, then print a sender PSID. At the same time, we responded to Facebook with status 200. In case it's not an event sent to the fan page, the server Node.js will respond with a 404, not found status. To test if our webhook is working, we will redeploy the app to Heroku. If our app is running, when the user sends a message to the Facebook page, we will see the ID of the person who sent the message. While waiting for the app to deploy to Heroku, we will configure the Facebook app to use the webhook, which we deployed to Heroku. We will open the Facebook app. Here, I am in the settings section of the Messenger product. We scroll to the webhook section. Select Add Callback URL. Callback URL is your Heroku app link, then /webhook, and what is verify token. This is our myVerify token parameter. Copy the value of this parameter, and paste it here. So, what did Facebook do, when we press the button, verify and save? First, Facebook will send a GET request to our webhook, the Node.js server on Heroku. With the GET method, and the endpoint /webhook, the server Node.js will call the getWebhook function. In this function, we will check for the parameter, myVerify token. Here, we send the correct verify token, so server Node.js will respond with status 200, so Facebook knows that our webhook is active, and it will accept this webhook. Finally, click Verify and Save. Wait a moment for Facebook to confirm our request. If you successfully configured the webhook, the link of the webhook will appear here. The next step is to register to receive events from Facebook. Here, we will subscribe to the following events. Messaging, to receive user messages sent to fan page. We use standby and messaging handovers events to turning on, off the chatbot. Messaging postback events will occur when a postback button, get started button, or persistent menu item is tapped. Next, we will enable natural language processing for chatbots. Select the Facebook page, then enable this toggle. I will mention natural language processing feature for chatbots in the next videos. After we have configured the webhook for the Facebook app, it's time to check if this webhook works or not. Going back to our code, the application has successfully deployed to Heroku. At the same time, we also open a tab to see the Heroku logs. We have webhook verify message, because just earlier, we have authenticated webhook with Facebook. To check, please open the Facebook page. Then, send a message to your fan page, then check Heroku logs. We got the ID of the person who sent the message to Facebook page. At the same time, this is the content of the message we received. After getting the ID of the person who sent the message to the Facebook page, the next thing we will do is to send a response message to the user with this ID. Returning to the Facebook's documentation, we are familiar with the page scope ID, also known as the sender ID. In order to be able to send messages to users, we will be familiar with Facebook events. These events will be sent to our webhook, letting us know if the user has sent a text message, an image, or a sticker. Generally, the Messenger platform sends webhook events to notify you of actions that occur in Messenger. In this function, we will check the names of events which Facebook sent to the webhook. If it was a messaging event, we would call the message handler function. Opposite. If it is the event sending the postback, we will call the postback handler function. At the same time, in these two functions, we also pass the event and the sender ID to the handler functions. Next, we will write code for these two functions. Copy this function, and overwrite our function. We copy this block code, then go back to the IDE. We overwrite the handle message function. Here, we create a variable called response. We will check if the message sent is a text message or not, because it is possible that users send pictures, stickers, not text messages. We will attach an object to the response variable, including the response message. Finally, we call the send API to send the message. We will write the send API function now. Copy function send API and overwrite our function. In the call send API function, first, we need to create a request body object, including the recipient ID and the text response. Next, we make a HTTP request to send the message to Facebook user. We copy this block code, then go back to the IDE. In this function, we use the page access token parameter. This is why in the webhook setup for the Facebook app, we created this token. This token parameter is required, always passed on the Facebook page API. Time to send your first message, with the messenger platform send API. In handle message, we are calling call send API, so now we need to update it, to construct the full request body, and send it to the messenger platform. A request to the send API has two properties. Recipient sets the intended message recipient. In this case, we identify the person by their PS ID. Message sets the details of the message to be sent. Here, we will set it to the message object, which we passed in from our handle message function. In this quick start, we are using the Node.js request module for sending HTTP requests back to the messenger platform. To install the request module, run npm install request from the command line, then import it to the top of this file. In order to use the request package, we import the request package. Import request from request. Then, go back to the call send API function. We will update the Facebook API version. Right here, we use the newest version, 7.0. In Messenger, send another text message to your Facebook page. You should receive an automated response from your Messenger experience that echoes back your message and prompts you to send an image. Since our response prompts the message recipient to send an image, our next step is to update our code to handle an attachment. Your Messenger experience can send and receive most asset types, including images, audio, video, and files. To determine if the message is an attachment, update the conditional in your handle message function to check the received message for an attachments property, then extract the URL for it. In a real-world bot, we would iterate the array to check for multiple attachments, but for the purpose of this quick start, we will just get the first attachment. Next, we will respond to the image with a generic template message. The generic template is the most commonly used structured message type, and allows you to send an image, text, and buttons in one message. You can copy this block code like me, or copy the whole function, then replace our function. I copy the part to create a response message. We paste the block code right here. This is a generic template message. Allows us to send text and buttons at the same time. We have two buttons to send to the users. One yes, and one no. The yes and no buttons are calling post back button. The payload property is the button ID. We use the payload to know which button users interact. Our last step is to handle the messaging postbacks webhook event that will be sent when the message recipient taps one of the postback buttons in our generic template. Since our generic template allows the message recipient to choose from two postback buttons, we will respond based on the value of the payload property of the postback event. To do this, update your handle postback stub to the following. To test what we did, we will deploy the code to Heroku. If everything went well, you just finished building your first messenger experience. In this function, we simply check the payload message. If the payload equal yes, we send a text response, saying thank you. Otherwise, send a text response saying to send another image. Finally, we call the send API function, to send the response message to the Facebook user. After we succeed to deploy the project to Heroku, now, it's time to test our chatbot. Open your Facebook fan page. First, we will send a text message. If our bot is working, it will send a reply message immediately, including our text message, and asking for sending an image. Try again with another text message. The message response structure always the same, because we only build a simple bot, without using natural language processing. Next, we will send an image. Choose a random image from your computer, then send to the bot. Wait a moment for the bot receives the image. As you can see, we have a generic message, including the image we sent. And two buttons, yes and no. Let's click on the no button. We have a reply message. And the yes button. A thank you message. Our bot is working. Really simple. In this video, you already learned the basic steps to build your own messenger bot. If you have any errors, please let me know by comment below this video. Thank you for watching my videos. Have a good day, and see you in the next videos.